Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, folks, who wastes the most money in the SEC? We're going to go down a ranking of that. And also, we're going to take a look and see who spends the most money in the SEC when it comes to recruiting. We're going to get all into that, and we won't waste any time. All right, I'm sure it's no shock to any of you. Texas A&M leads by a large margin in SEC wasted money, or severance as they like to call it, during 2024. And obviously Jimbo Fisher was the recipient of all that money. And what creaked him was a 10-year deal of guaranteed money back in the day after they went 9-1 during that virus year, 2020. So he was guaranteed it was close to $100 million. So when they bought him out for a record 70, can you imagine what it was like to go in there and ask the donors, you know, we're going to get rid of this guy and it's going to cost $77.5 million. Y'all okay with that?
That's like saying, I want a bajillion dollars.
Yeah, they had to be freaking out. But here's the deal. Texas A&M's got all that oil money, so I guess they felt like it was worth it. They just couldn't stand to go 8-4 again. They brought in a new guy, and he went 8-4. So unfortunately for Texas A&M, it didn't really help them much. But they were sick and tired of Jimbo Fisher. They just couldn't tolerate him anymore. And it all boiled down to, if you watch the game, he had Alabama. They were up by about 3 points, and it was getting late in the game. And Texas A&M had the ball. They were moving it. They were on Alabama's 49 or something, and they needed like a yard. And it was 4th and 1. And Jimbo punted. And I remember thinking as soon as he did that, I was like, they're never going to forgive him for this if they lose this game. Alabama took the ball, drove it all the way down and scored and won the ball game. And Texas A&M lost, and that was it. They never forgave him after that.
This man is a coward. Coward. Say it with your chest. Good.
Yep. They called him a coward. They called him everything in the book. Next thing you know, they had to buy him out. So that was they were already down on him. They were tired of him, but that finished him. Now here's a list of the money wasted just in 2024. Texas A&M wasted $27.5 million. Most of that was to Jimbo. Auburn wasted almost $11 million. I believe they had to pay off Brian Harsin. Texas, $7.2 million. Mississippi State, $5 million. They let a coach go. LSU, $4.7. Ole Miss, $2.8. Missouri, $2.7. Oklahoma, $2.5. Here's Tennessee at $2.3. Arkansas, $2.1. Kentucky, $1.7. They got so lucky. Kentucky, oh my gosh, you guys didn't have to pay off John Calipari. That's unbelievable. So fortunate. Florida, $1.2. Georgia, $1. South Carolina, only $440. And then Alabama, only $69,000. They did the best. So those are your biggest money wasters. And everybody knew A&M was going to come in way first. And then Auburn. They may have to pay off Hugh Freeze if he doesn't get it going down there. Hugh's an excellent coach. Maybe he'll get it right. He's got that Deuce Knight he brought in this year. And he's got Jackson Arnold. I'm not sold on Arnold, but you never know. Now, staying with the spending of money theme, here is a ranking of who spent the most money in recruiting. Now realize, this isn't how much money you spend in NIL or anything along those lines. It has nothing to do with revenue sharing. This has to do with how much you spend in your recruiting as far as expenses, travel, things like that, and going and seeing players, bringing them in, doing the whole wine and dine and all that kind of stuff. Well, I don't guess they have wine, but, well, they might. You know, a lot of the guys are in the recruiting are over 21. They might have a glass of wine. But anyway, they probably wouldn't. But let's see who spent the most money and who spent the least. All right, number one is Tennessee with $5.38 million. Now that should surprise you because Tennessee finished like, 11th or 12th in recruiting. But this is how much money they just spent taking care of the players and doing all that. Doesn't surprise me a whole lot because Tennessee, we don't have a ton of great players in state, so we've got to go outside of Tennessee to get the majority of our players. So no shock that we would spend like crazy. Let's see who's number two on this list. Alabama at 5.27. Now, a little surprised by that because there's a lot of great players in Alabama, the state of Alabama, that is. But Auburn's been grabbing them up. I guess Alabama kind of went all over the place. And Kalen DeBoer being from the West Coast, or he coached out there anyway, maybe he likes players from all over the country a little bit more. But they spent a lot, 5.27. Third place on this list. Well, Texas A&M, 4.14. No shock there, I guess. They love to spend it. Let's see who's fourth. Georgia. Now, that's a big surprise, $4 million. Georgia's got 5 stars everywhere you look. Kirby Smart can walk down the dadgum block and run into a 5-star. So a little surprised by that, but again, they're nationally recruiting. Oklahoma at 3.86. Oklahoma's had a tough time in the SEC. It's a new world when you leave the Big 12 and come into the SEC.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
So it's been kind of tough on them, but they're trying. They brought in a terrific quarterback in John Mateer. We'll see how he plays out. But Oklahoma needs to get it turned around, or the Brent Venables will be sent packing. And then they'll come running for Josh Heupel.
How dare you!
Number 6, Texas, $3.6 million. One thing about Texas, they don't care to spend the money. You know they will. Now, when it comes to NIL and also revenue sharing, this was the list last year. Once you add revenue sharing to this, Texas is going to be over $40 million or right at it. You know, they were second last year in NIL. Now they're going ahead and spending the revenue sharing, even though the settlement has not been agreed upon yet.
I'm going to nail you. Haven't you noticed? You got to be a man to play in my league.
They're waiting on the judge. The judge is all concerned about the walk-ons, which they're about to get that settled. I think that'll probably be in the next week or two. But Texas is spending like crazy. And here comes number 7 with Florida at 2.75. Number 8 is LSU at 2.47. Ole Miss, $2 million. Old Lane Kiffin's crew. South Carolina, 1.98. Old Shane Beamer. Mizzou, only 1.52. That's a little bit low. Let's see. Here's Auburn. That's very surprising. Auburn has spent like crazy in recruiting as far as NIL. They've really had some nice recruiting classes. But they're only spending 1.49. But again, they stayed in state a lot. Arkansas, 1.32. Sam Pittman. Kentucky, 1.24. That's not a huge surprise. Kentucky's primary concern is basketball. We all know that. They're a basketball school. Calipari tried to tell everybody that, but he got in trouble over that one. That got Mark Stoops tore up.
This is a basketball school. It's always been there. Alabama is a football school. So is Georgia. I mean, they are.
Right.
This is about, don't our football team, I hope they win games and 10 games and go to bowls. At the end of the day, that makes my job easier, and it makes the job of all of us easier. But this is a basketball school.
I don't care what anybody says about their program. That's not my business. That's not my lane. But when you start talking about my program and others that we compete against, I mean, I don't do that. I stay in my lane.
Stay in your lane, bro.
Anyway, Kentucky at 14th. Here comes Mississippi State, 15th at under $1 million. Man, Mississippi State, they need some help. They didn't win a single ball game in the SEC last year, and they're spending $990,000. I don't know what's going on. There ought to be some money down there. They're spending it for Ole Miss, and they're actually in last place because we don't have a 16th because we don't know what Vanderbilt spends. So they might be somewhere. They're probably towards the bottom, I would think. But Mississippi State's bringing up the rear, and they need some money. That's just, man, 0-8, and they're not spending any money. That's why you're 0-8.
Please, sir, I want some more.
More?
Anyway, I did want to break down all these rankings for you. Who's wasting the money? Who's spending the money? It's Show Me the Money. And yesterday's video, man, did I get some comments on that. The Alabama guy wanting to throw Tennessee out of the SEC. That got some people's dander up, to say the least. But you knew I was going to cover that. Anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Lets me know to continue to cover all these big college sports stories. If you've not subscribed, boom, 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 hit that little button right there. It won't cost you a dime. Help you get my videos. And right over here is the most recent video YouTube thinks you'll enjoy based on your viewing history. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.
Goodbye, old friend. May the force be with you.